At the start of the story, a man is introduced, claiming to be a king. With a fearless expression and an intimidating presence, he appears confident. In the very next moment, he is shown in combat with an opponent far beneath his level. The NPC who attacks him is easily countered by the king, who deflects his strikes and swiftly kills him. Immediately after, a large group of fighter jets carrying bombs appears. The bombs are dropped on the people and the city, but the king stands still, almost as if he is aura farming. The people, including women and children, perish due to the massive bombs that fall upon them. Yet the king remains indifferent, considering himself the strongest king to ever live. Sitting on his majestic throne, he listens to the cries of those dying. He watches the devastation caused by his own orders, yet shows no empathy for the suffering of the people. In the next moment, however, he is shown in a pitiful state, crying as he admires a skeleton and a sword encased in a transparent box. Shortly after, a stream of bubbles appears on the screen, and the king is seen drowning in an ocean. He then hears a voice telling him to seek the light in his new life. Confused as he swims through the bubbles, a beam of light emerges, accompanied by the sound of a baby crying. The king sees a man and a woman and is startled. He asks who they are, but his voice doesn't seem to reach them. He witnesses the man, named Reynolds, attempting to make him call him father. Shocked, the king realizes that he has been reincarnated in the body of a baby. The king's new parents, Alice and Reynolds, name him Arthur. He is extremely displeased with being reborn as an infant, resenting the helplessness that comes with it, particularly the bodily functions he can't control. It feels like a prison to him, and he constantly thinks of the situation as a dream, yet he cannot wake up. Sometime later, they are seen outside. Reynolds uses a strange spell, sending a beam of red light from his hand, which he uses to slice a stone into 1,000 pieces. A piece of the rock strikes Reynolds on the head, injuring him. Alice, holding Arthur, approaches and casts her own spell, releasing a ray of green light that heals the wound. These powers are unfamiliar to the king, who is surprised and decides to observe them, intending to use them in the future. In the next moment, Reynolds faces a large bull, using the same spell to defeat it with a single blow. A group of people emerges from the shadows, Reynolds' companions. Alice waits in front of the house, holding Arthur. As Arthur carefully observes, he realizes that Reynolds and many others can freely use weapons. This thought leads him to conclude that he must be cautious moving forward, as he now thinks like a leader and a king. He finds it dangerous that so many people are armed, and decides he must gain power as quickly as possible. As they speak to Arthur, he slowly falls asleep. In his dream, he recalls his past life as a king, where sleep was always a dangerous affair, and he would rest with one eye open, destroying any enemies who dared to attack him. Now, in his new life, he can sleep without fear. Time passes, and Arthur eventually learns to crawl. His parents, watching him with concern, fear he might fall and hurt himself. One day, the king looks into a mirror for the first time, seeing his new baby body. At that moment, Reynolds calls him Little Arthur, a name that displeases the king. Though he dislikes it, he acknowledges that they are his parents, and they gave him that name. In his new body, the king can now sleep without the fear of an attack, but he remains cautious, still in control of his own movements. He sneaks past his mother into a room filled with books. He opens one and reads about the continent where he now lives, Dysathan. This continent consists of 3 kingdoms: the Tarf Kingdom, inhabited and ruled by dwarves; the Eleanor Kingdom, a hidden kingdom deep in a forest where elves reside; and the Saipan Kingdom, the most populous and where the king now lives, mostly inhabited by humans and governed as a monarchy, much like his previous kingdom. The main difference between his previous world and this one was that in this kingdom, the throne was inherited rather than seized. Arthur opened another book to learn more, and discovered that this world was still developing. The book explained that the world had a power system based on magic, which was hereditary and found in only 1 out of every 100 people. He read further to learn that there were 2 applications of mana, augmenting, and conjuring. Augmentors could use mana to enhance their bodies, granting them incredible strength and agility, while conjurers used mana in various ways, projecting it as they wished. Arthur thought to himself that despite his parents being conjurers, he might be an exception. He discovered that the key to controlling mana was the mana core. Most spellcasters gained their power after puberty, in their late teens, and by mastering control over the mana core. They could become mages. Arthur recalled a similar system from his previous life, known as Kai. To acquire this power, one had to become aware of their internal energy, control it, and then unleash it. The center of the Ki was crucial to this process. A thought crossed his mind. Perhaps the magic system in this world was similar to the Ki system in his previous life. So, he attempted to use the same method he had in his previous life to awaken his powers. However, as he focused on his Ki, his annoying mother interrupted him to check his diaper, realizing he had soiled it again. This infuriated him, and he thought of his body as a prison. 2 years passed since Arthur's birth. The next moment, we see his mother, Alice, writing a letter to someone, explaining that Arthur is a very cute and curious child, though he never smiles. We then see Arthur and his father outside, with Arthur trying to practice sword fighting with a wooden stick. The father calls Alice to look at how their son is doing, but she is not pleased, believing it's not good for him to learn swordsmanship at such a young age. She is angry with her husband, while Arthur sits there, wondering if all marriages in the world are like this. In the next scene, Alice is walking into town, holding Arthur. She notices that every time they visit, Arthur seems very happy. Arthur enjoys visiting the market, knowing he can gather information from his surroundings. Having once been a king, he learned the world by observing people in the town. While there, he sees people using different types of magic, which impresses him. Later, when Arthur is asleep, Alice talks to him, saying how much she enjoys when he sneaks around to read books, and how his face lights up at the market. She tells him it reminds her of his father, as he was the same way. She believes that, like his father, Arthur will want to explore the world by his side. The next moment shows Arthur watching his father practice magic. Arthur thinks how fortunate he is to have a powerful father who can control magic. However, when his father performs a spell that doesn't work, Alice reassures him, saying he will improve, and indeed, his father successfully casts the spell after that. Later, Alice picks Arthur up from the stool to put him to bed, but he doesn't want to sleep. He wants to read. He reaches for a book, but his mother won't allow it. He gives her a pleading look and, unable to say no to her beautiful child, she eventually relents. After she leaves, Arthur begins performing a magic spell. While studying the books, he has learned how to produce a mana core. He concentrates all of his mana in one spot, focusing intently. As the final step of creating the mana core is completed, a large explosion occurs. The entire house is blown apart. Reynolds, his father, shields his wife with his own life. When they recover, they rush inside to find Arthur. To their shock and confusion, they discover that Arthur has successfully created his mana core, and the explosion was a result of it. His parents are stunned and cannot accept what they're seeing. Just then, pieces of burning wood begin to fall on Arthur. Unable to move on his own due to his small size, Arthur fears he will die. But in the nick of time, his parents rush in to protect him, pushing him under them to shield him from the debris. Arthur can hardly believe what he's witnessing. When he sees his mother crying for him, he realizes they are his true parents, and they will always ensure his safety. Overcome with emotion, he bursts into tears, now determined to understand them better. And that's the end of the episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is my second video on the channel, so it will help me if you subscribe and like the video. Hope to see you in next video. Bye.